Hello everyone, this is Logan59XP here for another episode of the Nin-Cast here on December 22nd of 2021, and today I'm here to give my thoughts on the final MCU TV show and final MCU anything period of the year, and that of course is Hawkeye. So let's just go ahead and go straight into it. So, I had basically... not even basically. I had no expectations going into this. Like, I wasn't going into it hoping it'd be great. I wasn't going into it thinking it'd be horrible. I just went into it being like, well, we'll see what happens. Like every other MCU TV show this year, I had some, even if it wasn't that much, I had some at least minute level of anticipation. Like WandaVision looked pretty interesting, and I still stand by that. Even with the Ralph Boner thing and the ending being kind of your generic-ish MCU, they're fighting in the lasers, and even outside of that, I still will attest to WandaVision being the best one overall, especially like the experience. Like the experience of watching WandaVision, all of like the discussion around it, is something that will never, it's something that's just never gonna, it's like probably never gonna be topped for an MCU TV show, at least for a while. Obviously, No Way Home, that was a whole other thing, but that's freaking Spider-Man. Of course, it's gonna be bigger. But the experience of WandaVision alone, never mind the TV show, elevates that to being my favorite MCU TV show. Falcon and Winter Soldier was neat. There was some neat stuff, like there was some cool stuff in there, obviously, and the last episode I know is is divisive with like how kind of blatantly the message is. The message is admittedly pretty blatant, but honestly, but overall, I thought the last episode was okay. It may not have been the strongest ending, but the ending was basically what the show was basically the ending I expected, in the sense that the entire purpose of the Falcon Winter Soldier was to make Sam Captain America, and the final episode did that. So I can't really be mad at it, even if the whole speech was admittedly a bit on the nose, but I thought overall it worked. It was fine. I liked the Falcon Winter Soldier. Not as much as WandaVision, but I liked it. Loki it wasn't WandaVision interesting, but it was definitely more, because Falcon and Winter Soldier was more of like a standard-ish MCU like project, whereas like WandaVision had all these was very different, and then Loki is like maybe not as different as WandaVision was, but it's definitely got its own unique thing going for it. And of course, the whole thing with the TVA and just how their power is just so much bigger than anything we've seen in the future. There's the whole thing with or anything we've seen in the past before. The whole thing where the Infinity Stones are like literally nothing to them. They're paperweights. And I know a lot of people don't like that they're paperweights. I get why, but I don't really have a problem with it, because again, it kind of just shows like the TVA is on this whole other level, and I think it works. But I also kind of understand when people are like, oh, it undermines the entire Infinity Saga when you have the TVA just having the Infinity Stones be paperweights. And they just have, like, boxes of them, and they're, like, literally nothing. I get it, but I thought it was fine. Point is, Loki was good. It was better than Falcon Winter Soldier. Not as good as WandaVision, but it was good. Obviously, the ending was obviously a big deal with the multiverse breaking open. And, of course, that, making No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness possible. So, there was that. This show, though, doesn't really have any of that. And that's one of the reasons why I went to it with, like, literally no expectations, is because it was like, what does this show exist to do? Like, obviously not every MCU thing ever has to set up the next 20 movies or whatever, but there has to be a purpose to the show, right? Like, why does this show exist? And the obvious reason as to why this show exists is simple. This show it exists to set up Kate Bishop, and it does that just fine. I don't have any problems with her. She's kind of neat in a couple of scenes. I won't mind. I'm not gonna mind seeing her in the future, but that's all the show really exists to do. It exists to set up Kate Bishop, and again, it does that fine. Haley Steinfeld does a fine job for the most part. Yeah, it's not as good as her Spider-Verse. It's not as good as her Spider-Verse stuff. But then again, that's Spider-Verse. So like, comparing Hawkeye to Spider-Verse is pretty brutal. but they're both Marvel projects, so it's kind of like that's another thing that's kind of interesting, is the fact that Haley Steinfeld is like, oh yeah, she's Gwen in Spider-Verse, and yet she's also now Kate Bishop in the MCU. But yeah, just kind of an interesting thing. But yeah. So like I guess okay. I keep like dilly-dallying. I'm talking about the build up to like the non-existent expectations I had for the show. But I'm not talking about the show itself yet. So okay. So the show starts. The first episode is basically the Kate Bishop show. Which, again, this show exists. This show exists to set her up. But that's what the first episode is. And they do... And what was kind of funny is that when the first episode happened, and it, like, started with, like, that overhead shot of, like, New York, I was like, oh, let me guess. This is 2012, right? Like, the second I saw that they were in New York and they were in an apartment, I was like, this is going to be 2012. And because it's 2012... Actually, did it say 2012 first, or did it say it later on? I forget. I think it might have said 2012 initially. But either way, like they have that overhead shot of New York at the beginning. And I was like, I know exactly where this is going. And then they plop 2012 on the screen. That's like, oh, I definitely know where this is going. And then I'm just waiting for it to happen. Like, okay, it's in 2012. They're in New York. I know what's gonna happen. I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to happen. We see, Kate is a kid with her parents, and they're having that and have that little like feud or whatever it's going on. And I'm just sitting there waiting, because I know it's gonna happen. We're gonna see something. We're gonna see an explosion. We're gonna see something fly past the window. We're gonna see something because it's 2012 New York. Whenever there is an MCU anything that is in 2012 New York City, you know what's going to happen. So I was just sitting there waiting, and then eventually I saw something fly past the window. And then the explosion happened, and it was like, oh, there it is. And then we get that shot of what I was at first not even entirely sure was apologies if I'm not really speaking all that well right now. But then we have that shot of Kate standing there with like the blown up hole in the apartment. And she's just kind of standing there looking at all the destruction. And then we see, of course, she looks at Hawkeye, who's, of course, standing on one of the rooftops from that one shot in the Avengers. And at first I was like, was that reused footage? Did they reuse footage? I don't think they actually did, but for a split second I was like, did they reuse footage there for a shot? Maybe they did. I don't know. But as far as I'm aware of, it's new. And then, of course, the entire idea is, whoa, look at how cool he is. He has, like, no powers. He's just a bow and arrow, And look how cool he is. And then, of course, that's supposed to be the lead into, of course, oh, I became, I wanted to become just like you because it was so cool to see you, kick ass while just having a bow and arrow. And I wanted to do that, And, of course, in the final episode, they directly say that. Kate directly says that to Clint. But yeah, so we get that. The entire first episode is basically just the whole thing with like the underground black market. We get Jack, which, spoiler alert, Jack actually isn't some super secret bad guy as everyone was expecting. Like, I think in the first couple episodes, everyone was like, oh yeah, there's gonna be something with this guy. He has mustache twirling villain written all over him. But actually not. Which, you know what? I would have been okay if he was just a mustache twirling villain, because it's literally written all over his face. But it's actually kind of cool that he wasn't. I'm kind of skipping between episodes here, but yeah, Jack actually isn't super secret bad guy. Well, super secret bad guy in quotes. Which was kind of neat, actually. He actually ended up being totally innocent. So that was kind of a different swerve. I think a lot of people were expecting him to be like, at least before the Kingpin stuff started in like episode 4, I think, is when they first hinted at it. But before that, I think everyone was expecting Jack to like be like, if not like the main like quote unquote bad guy, at least be like a bad guy. And then no, not actually. Even though it's written all over his face, you look at him and you're like, oh yeah, this guy's got something up, because it totally looks like he does. But no, he doesn't. So it's kind of interesting. So yeah, first episode, Kate gets the Ronin suit, and then at the very end, Hawkeye finds her, and then that's where the episode ends. Then we have episode 2, That's where they first start. They go back to her apartment. I'm gonna skim over a bunch of the minor details here. Obviously, you can watch the show if you wanted to see the whole thing. But I assume if you're listening to this, you've already seen the show. So I'm gonna skim over some details here. But the second episode is basically, Kate and Clint, kind of, actually meeting up. They're trying to figure out what's going on with the Ronin suit and the people that are trying to get Kate for having the Ronin suit. That whole thing. We get that whole thing of Clint going to the medieval fair or whatever to get the suit. That was kind of neat. Obviously, that was a very comedy moment, but it was a comedy moment that I thought worked. Because a lot of people talk about the Marvel humor, and it is in the show, especially in the last episode. I think it's probably where it's the most obvious, which is not necessarily a good thing, but we'll get to that when we get there. But I thought that I thought that worked. The whole medieval, Clint having to go to that medieval guild. I thought that worked. And then what else happens? Again, I'm skimming over. I'm gonna end up skimming over some important stuff because this show doesn't have a clear trajectory in the same way that the others do. In WandaVision, every episode is very distinct. In the Falcon and Winter Soldier, even, the episodes are more distinct. And Loki, the episodes are more distinct. Because it's this episode, they're here. This episode, they're here. This episode, they're here. But with Hawkeye, the episodes kind of blend together a little more to me. They don't feel as distinct. And I'm sure a big part of that is the fact that, they're kind of in the same area. They're just in New York. They don't really go anywhere else. I mean, then again, all of WandaVision takes place in Westview, but they have the whole thing of this episode's black and white. Oh, this episode's this episode is Brady Bunch. Oh, this episode is Modern Family. Oh, this episode is Malcolm in the Middle. They have that thing that makes the episodes unique. And even again, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Loki, you can tell oh, this episode is they're here and they're doing this, and the episode's about this. This one is oh yeah, the first episode's about Kate Bishop. The second episode is Clint and Kate meeting up and trying to get the Ronin outfit. Episode 3 is basically that. I think episode 3 is episode 3 the one where they go? I think episode 3 is the one where I think they go to the track mafia. Oh yeah, okay. So I know some people out there don't like that the track mafia is just a joke. I think it works. I actually do like the tracksuit mafia. Yes, are they just basically a joke? Yeah. Do I like them still? Yes. And they got that stereotypical accent that I'm totally not pulling off in any kind of convincing way right now. Okay, I'm not even gonna try to pull off the stereotypical act. Okay, you wanna know what the bowling alley? Okay, the bowling. Oh, I just kind of spoiled what I was gonna say right there. But you wanna know what the tracksuit guys definitely remind me of? I could totally picture one of them saying, "Hey, let's go bowling." Come on, they got that written all over them. They literally look like they're from GTA 4. They could totally be a part of that whole thing, but yeah, the stereotypical, which is not a bad. I think a lot of people will be like, "Oh, it's stereotypical," and they'll label that as a bad thing. This might be a hot take right here. Stereotypes are not a bad thing. If people like the stereotypes, there's nothing wrong with that. That's my hot maybe take, is I don't think there's anything wrong with stereotypes if they're fun. But that's just me. So I liked the Tracksuit Mafia. Yes, they were kind of a joke. I still liked them. That's my take on that. But yeah, they go to, what's her name, Maya? So what's kind of interesting about Maya is that I think a lot of people were probably expecting Maya to be a bigger focus than she actually was, just because of the fact that, we knew that she was getting a spin-off series, which is apparently still happening, but well, there's definitely a decent amount of screen time about Maya and all that stuff. It is kind of we're gonna have a whole show of this character? I feel like a lot of people are not really sold on that spin-off series right now. They're not really sold on her having her own show. I mean, we'll see. Maybe it'll be decent. But I feel like a lot of people are not sold on her, especially when it's we're gonna have a whole show of. Okay, it's one thing at first. So of course, the most notable thing about Maya is the fact that she's deaf. So that they use that whole thing where they have the other guy. I know he has a name. I know he has a name. I don't remember his name. I'm sorry. The other guy that she's with, that's like her brother or whatever, that's like doing all the translating for the rest of us. Like, that's something that makes her stand out. She has the sign language thing. That's kind of neat, but it's also like, are we really gonna want an entire show of that? I don't know. I guess that means they won't have to worry about dubbing as much. But yeah, they go to the tracksuit leader. They go to the tracksuit guy's place, and they have Maya there. And that's how, like, I think episode 3 ends. And yeah, I think Hawkeye. Wait, actually, no, I'm forgetting something. Actually, no, I'm an idiot. Sorry, I just screwed everything up. Episode 2 ends with them going to the tracksuit mafia's place where Maya is. That's how episode 2 ends. And then episode 3 is when they like have the fight there, and that's also when we get was probably like the best sequence in the entire show, which is like that car chase scene where Kate is shooting all those different arrows. That was pretty neat. It's nothing amazing, but it was cool. It was probably the best part of the entire show, even if I was constantly questioning, is that background real? like this is like a complaint a lot of people have with the MCU, and this is like a complaint that even I kind of agree with, is the whole like overusage of CGI and everything. And we'll actually talk about that a little later on, because actually I could just talk about it now because it doesn't really affect anything else. But like that scene in the final episode where like Clint is like in the Christmas tree and he looks at the owl, and I'm like, is that owl CG? Because I'm pretty sure that owl is CG. It's good CG, but that's CG, right? That owl is I mean, obviously later on when the owl like grabs like the little like car and flies away, that's obviously CG, because like how else would that work? But like, I'm like, do they really need to make a CG owl? I don't know. But like that whole like fight on like with like the in the the whole car chase with like where she shoots all the different arrows that do different things, that was cool. But there was also a part of me that was like, are they really on a bridge right now? Because like I feel like it's I'm like I don't know. It's just weird. Like I feel like there's more CG involved in that than there really needs to be. Like maybe it's just the fact that like who was it? Was it Brown Table or was it High Top? I don't know. There was like a video I watched once where basically they were like, hey, you notice how a lot of the time in the MCU movies they'll shoot like and they showed this thing with like Black Panther as an example, I think, where they shoot on a green screen. I mean, of course, a lot of the MCU is green screen because we got all this stuff going on. But like even scenes that don't need to be green screened, they'll have them be green screened, and then they'll put in like a digital background, and then they'll like blur it to like hide the fact that it's CG. And now every time I see a shot in an MCU anything that doesn't need to be CG, but it looks like it has that blurred background, I'm like, is that CG or is that real? I don't know. I think High Top is I think he mentioned that in his Endgame review. I think in his Endgame video he mentioned how like, oh yeah, like they'll like shoot green screen for scenes that don't need to be green screened, and it's like kind of obvious. And now that I've seen it, it's like, yeah, it is kind of obvious. Like now I can tell when like a scene is CG just by like the background. Even if the background's deliberately blurred to hide the fact that it's CG, I can just tell, And I think that a good portion, like at least the bridge portion of that car chase scene was like probably CG. Like maybe not the cars. The cars probably aren't CG for the most part. Like the bridge part, like I feel like the bridge background at least is like CG. But again, I have nothing to prove that. Obviously, once they get to like the road and stuff, that's obviously real. But like, or probably real. Okay. You want to know a cool shot that they did? There's actually 2 neat camera techniques they use in the show. I'm not the kind of person to be all like, ooh, cinematography. I know a lot of people talk about how, the MCU is very bland cinematography a lot of the time. But there was actually 2 neat kind of things they did in this episode with the car chase. They did that thing where they had the camera like constantly spin around, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like like they like constantly shift from like Clint to Kate to like the tracksuit guys or whatever, and it's like constantly like spinning in a circle. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's like one continuous shot, basically, and it's pretty neat. And then we have that scene in the final episode that's not probably as interesting as that, but they did that thing that like you'll see sometimes in movies and stuff where like they're like fighting and like Yelena and Kate are fighting in the building, and it's like this, and they're constantly like and they're moving from room to room, but it's like this one constant like perspective or whatever. Like if you've seen the episode, you know what scene I'm talking about, and you know what I'm trying to say. So that was kind of neat. It's not as interesting as like the camera thing they did in the third episode for the car chase, but still, that's 2 moments of like, hey, that's neat camera work. Yeah, that's something, you know. I'm not the kind of person to be all like, oh, bland cinematography, because to me it's like it doesn't matter if the other stuff is good. But that was neat. I liked that. I liked the way they used the camera for the car chase, where it was one continuous shot in the circle, and then I liked the thing they did with the fight with Yelena in the 6th episode, where it's like this constant perspective where they keep moving left, and you can just see through like the glass and whatever. Like that's neat. Even though I'm pretty sure they've done that in other things. In other shows, well, maybe not the MCU, but like I'm sure I've seen that before in something, but that's still neat. But yeah. Long story short, the 3rd episode, at the very least, that car chase scene is my favorite scene in the movie. In the movie, I mean, these shows are all 6-hour movies basically, anyway. But that was probably my favorite scene in the whole series. I'm not sure if it's my favorite episode, but it's definitely my favorite scene. Then we have the 4th episode. Again, I'm skipping over some stuff, but we have the 4th episode, and what's the 4th episode about? The one thing about the 4th episode I remember specifically is that this is the episode where Yelena is introduced, and I remember at first I was kind of like, is that all they're gonna have for her? Because we knew, because they not built up, but they teased, the post-credit scene for Black Widow was basically a teaser for Yelena being in Hawkeye. So at first I was like, okay, so they have her show up, and then like she doesn't, and then she has like this mask on, so you can't even really see her, and then she just comes for like 2 seconds and it goes away. That was kind of weird. But obviously in the following episode she has a lot more screen time, so it makes more sense then. But I remember at first it was kind of like, really, that's all? That she's only in here for that long? After, like, all that quote-unquote build-up? I don't know. And again, the 4th episode is the one where it's like, oh, we're not partners, whatever, Kind of the, obvious through line of, oh, he's saying that now, and then at the end they're going to be partners, and they're going to be all happy, jolly, and everything. This whole series is happy, jolly, because, it takes place during Christmas. Okay, that's one thing I liked, by the way. I liked the Christmas setting, and I liked how they had all of the, the kind of, like, stock Christmas music. I also liked that they had, though, the Grinch. They had, like, the Grinch, I think, at the end of the 5th episode. That was kind of neat. Okay. Now, there's one thing I want to talk about really quickly that I just kind of found funny and, like, really on the nose. I think this is in either the 2nd or 3rd episode. I think it's the 2nd episode when Hawkeye's like going to like that little memorial for the Avengers, and thinking about like Natasha, and you see in the background the friggin' Disney building. You see like some like Disney location, and it's like get it because Marvel's owned by Disney, get it? So they have the Disney building back there. It kind of reminds me of did I mention this in the No Way Home video? If I didn't mention this in the No Way Home video, I'll mention it now. How during like the initial swinging sequence of Peter and MJ, running, getting away from everyone, where MJ's like, "Yep, that's right, folks, Peter Parker," from the one from the trailer when they're swinging around and MJ's like freaking out. You see for like a brief second, you see a building with the PlayStation logo on it, and it's like, get it, guys? Sony owns PlayStation. This is a Sony movie. Get it? I just kind of find that funny when we get that very blatant corporate cross promotion. We have the Disney logo showing up in Hawkeye, and we have the PlayStation logo showing up in No Way Home. Because even though No Way Home is a MCU movie and it's made by Marvel Studios, it's of course released by Sony and it's owned by Sony, so we have to have that little cross promotion there where we have the PlayStation logo, which surprisingly, I feel like I'm the only person that's brought it up. Because, like, I watched the Real Rejects watch, like, one of, like, those, like, I forget if it was Cosmic Wonder or, like, I don't know, like, you know, they watched, like, a bunch of those, like, breakdown videos, and I watched, like, their reaction to one of them, and he meant, in that video, they were like, oh, we see PlayStation games at this one part, which I didn't even know, so I didn't even realize there were PlayStation games anywhere in there. But then, they didn't mention the big fat PlayStation logo in the background of the swinging scene, so I was kind of thrown off that they didn't mention something that blatant. Or maybe they thought it was so blatant that it wasn't worth bringing up. I don't know. But, yeah, it's just kind of funny. I was like, oh, the Disney logo's in Hawkeye. No, the PlayStation logo's in No Way Home. Oh, how blatant. It's not even really a complaint. It's just really obvious. It's just really blatant. But, yeah, so yeah, Yelena. Yelena shows up for a little bit, not as long as I think people were expecting. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about this. But so Yelena, of course, we last saw in Black Widow. You know, after the whole final brouhaha, in Black Widow, and then she's off with like her family or whatever. And then of course we find out in this show that she actually got dusted. And at first I was confused because it happened so quickly that I was like, did it fast forward through time for some reason? Like I know that it's gonna go 5 years ahead, but like it felt like they deliberately like fast forwarded that scene. I was like confused for a second. And I was like, okay, and then I was like, okay, no, never mind, I get it. So yeah, she gets dusted, and then they just immediately cut to like her getting brought back, and that was kind of weird to me how they just did that and fast forwarded like really quickly through that. And then, of course, she finds out that Natasha died, and, of course, that's the reason why she's going after Hawkeye and everything. And then, of course, at the end of Episode 6, their whole conflict is resolved and whatnot, as you would probably expect. And, yeah, so, then I know I'm skipping over, like, a lot of, like, small details here, but there's not as much stuff to really talk about with the show as there are with the others, so apologies if I'm skipping over a lot of things. The episode 5, though, a good chunk of episode 5 is actually Kate talking to Yelena in like her burnt apartment, and this is where, okay, so you know how earlier I said, oh yeah, like the Marvel humor is like in the show, but it's mainly in like the last episode or whatever. Let me really rephrase that. It's in the last 2 episodes, and it's mainly with Yelena. I mean, they had a little bit of that Marvel humor, quote unquote, in Black Widow, like when they had that scene of Yelena like trying to do like the pose where when like the Black Widow pose as she lands and she's like, ugh, this is not right, or whatever. Oh, this is weird. That's weird. With this one, they definitely go all in on that. Like, the whole thing of, like, her being like, oh, mac and cheese is so great. And then they have that scene in the elevator in the final episode where she's like, don't touch the button. And it's like, okay, that's kind of, yeah. Yelena's definitely the one character in this series that has, like, the Marvel humor. And again, Marvel humor is obviously divisive. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I didn't really mind it for the most part, but it was definitely pretty obvious that it was Marvel humor. Like, especially like that like the mac and cheese one was like pretty on the nose. Like that was very obviously, hey look, Marvel humor. That was pretty on the nose. Like I thought the elevator scene was fine. I thought that I didn't really have a problem with that, even though it was kind of obvious. Like, oh yeah, we got humor, whatever. But the mac and cheese one was pretty on the nose because they kind of dragged that mac and cheese thing. Because the thing is, with the elevator one, they don't really drag it out that long. The mac and cheese one, they kind of run the whole mac and cheese thing into the ground a little. So if anything, I'd probably have a little bit of a problem with that. But I'm not gonna lose my mind over it or anything. But yeah, Yelena definitely gets more screen time in the last 2 episodes. But they definitely have that Marvel humor in certain points with her. And then I guess that brings us to probably what is the most notable thing in the show to most people. Because again, I don't think most people were really excited for this show going into it. It was kind of like, yeah, this show's going to set up Kate, and that's about it, and that's all anyone really expected from it. And the show, up until, I would say, episode 5 and 6, I would say, is fine. Up until that point, I would say, yeah, it's fine. There's 1 or 2 neat moments, but overall, it's fine, And then the end of episode 5 comes in. And this, of course, brings in the thing that was teased in the last couple episodes. And that, of course, is it officially confirms, yes, Kingpin is in this show. And obviously, a lot of people were pretty excited about that. Especially since, of course, a couple of days after that episode premiered, No Way Home came out. And, of course, No Way Home brought us the glorious return of Charlie Cox as Daredevil. And pretty much everyone liked his appearance in that movie. I mean, yeah, he's not in the movie for very long. He's in the movie for like a minute or two. But he's good for the little amount of screen time he has in No Way Home. I mean, he gets that neat moment of like, he catches the brick from the window and he has that line of, "I'm a really good lawyer." And, everyone likes him. It's nice. It was cool. I didn't watch Daredevil, and I'm going to re-emphasize that later on when we talk about Kingpin, because my opinion on Kingpin is kind of based on the fact that I haven't seen the show, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, people liked Daredevil and No Way Home for the little screen time he had, so I think that just kind of further emphasized, okay, Kingpin's going to be in the last episode of Hawkeye, and we got Daredevil and No Way Home, and he's cool, and he's good in that movie. Yeah, he's barely in it, but for the little screen time he got, he was cool. It was nice to see him again. Then we can get the final episode. And I think I can say safely that the final episode is going to be a make or break for this series. I'm willing to bet most people were not super big on this series even at this point. But I think that this last episode is going to be a make it or break it for you. Mainly for one reason, but even the entire episode as a whole arguably would have the same thing. Now, before we talk about the actual episode itself, I'm actually one of the 5 people that actually likes this episode. It's probably if it's not my favorite episode, it's probably my second favorite episode. And that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion right there, but I'm just saying. Now, admittedly, the entire last episode is basically just one big action piece. It's basically just one big fight for the most part. Like, yeah, there's that part at the beginning. Okay, actually, no. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and just get this out of the way, because this is probably the number one thing everyone's going to talk about with this last episode and with the series as a whole. The lasting impact of this show, I think, is dependent on what happens in the future. Because again, what's the entire purpose of this show? It's to set up Kate, and it does that just fine. But the thing people are going to remember about this series, I feel like, is going to be Kingpin. So let's talk about Kingpin. So again, I haven't seen Daredevil. I know. I need to see it. I know it's like the best thing since sliced bread. I'm going to watch it one of these days, I promise. I know everyone talks about how great that show is, especially season 1. I know, I've seen a couple of the scenes. I've seen clips of of the infamous hallway scene. I've seen clips of that scene of like Daredevil beating the crap out of Kingpin, where he's like, "I beat you," and there's the blood on the painting. I've seen that one scene of Kingpin, freaking destroying that guy with the car door. Like I've seen a couple of scenes briefly in like little videos, like for example, in a High Tops video about Daredevil. I've seen a couple of clips from that, but for the most part, I have not seen Daredevil. I know a little bit about it, but not much. And so therefore, my opinion on Kingpin in the show is entirely as someone that has not seen that show. And in my opinion, even though this is going to be, I know I've said a couple of times in this video, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. This is going to be an unpopular opinion. I think he's fine in this show. Is he toned down? Even as someone that hasn't seen the original show, is he toned down? Yes. But that really doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anyone that in this show in particular, he's toned down. It's Hawkeye. It's supposed to be lighthearted. It's not supposed to be that serious. Of course, he's going to be somewhat toned down. But I thought he was totally fine. Although I will admit, there was a part of me that was wishing he was a little bit more intimidating. Like that one, I'd say probably the best scene with him in the entire episode is the part at the beginning where he's talking with Maya and he's talking with not Maya. I mean, that's kind of a part of it as well. But like, where he's talking with, what's her name? Eleanor, who is like Kate's mom. I thought that was neat. Although, even I was like, even though I thought he could have been a little bit more, because that's one thing people talked about with Kingpin, is he's really intimidating. And it's kind of here in this episode, but I definitely thought it could have been, again, even as someone that hasn't seen the original series, even I could tell they were holding back a little bit. They were definitely holding back a little bit. But I also don't think that he's like, because I've seen a lot of people say that he's like a joke in this episode, and I disagree with that. because the dude, withstands several arrows like it's nothing. He gets hit by a car and pretty much walks that off like it's nothing. He's not nothing. He is not a weakling in this. They definitely show that he is at least somewhat of a force to be reckoned with. But the main complaint seems to be that he's not enough of a force. Like, he doesn't wipe the floor with Kate, because Kate actually does halfway decent against him. And I think that's a complaint a lot of people have, is like, oh, like, she actually stands a chance against him, whereas Kingpin is supposed to wipe the floor with her because he's freaking Kingpin. And fair enough, but at the same time, it's like, of course Kate's gonna quote-unquote win against him because it's freaking Hawkeye. It's, like, of course he's gonna, like, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, he could have been better. Even as someone that hasn't seen the original show, I could tell that he was toned down. At least he's toned down a bit, but not to the point that I thought he was ruined. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, he's ruined. They ruined him. They PG'd him. He's horrible. He's ruined. They ruined Daredevil." And I'm like, again, I know that my opinion on this is not entirely. It's not all there because I haven't seen the show. If I had seen Daredevil prior to watching this, I probably still wouldn't hate him in this episode, but I probably would be a lot more understanding of the complaints people have with him in this episode. But as is, I thought he was fine. I could tell he was being held back somewhat, but I thought he was fine. And what's funny is that at first, I thought the main complaint was going to be the ending. Okay, so let's just go and fast forward to the ending. So the ending has, well, I guess not the ending, but like, Kingpin, basically, he gets shot by Maya. And at first I thought that was going to be the complaint. Like, the second I saw that happen, I was like, if they actually killed him, people are not going to take that. If they, like, of course, eventually I was like, okay, I mean, I knew that there was no way, like, not maybe as, like, for example, I said in the No Way Home video that, oh, there's no way they're going to kill Toby. There's no way they're going to, like, the second that scene happened, I was shocked because I wasn't expecting it. But I knew they weren't going to kill him. Like, I was shocked for like a second, and then I was like, oh, he's not going to die. They're not going to kill him, because people would riot in the streets if they killed Toby. And that's basically the same way I feel about Kingpin, although maybe not as strongly, because it's not as blatant, because they cut away. Because with Toby, they show him getting stabbed. With Kingpin, they don't show him getting shot, so they leave ambiguity. And as a lot of people have said, in the MCU, if you don't see him being killed, they're not dead. So, yeah, it's pretty obvious that he's not dead. And for the record, even the people that don't like Kingpin in this episode, most people understand and agree that, yeah, he's not dead. He's definitely going to come back in the Echo show or something. So, he's not dead. For anyone out there that thinks he's dead, he's clearly not dead. Do you really think they're going to bring back Vincent D'Onofrio and then just kill him in one episode? That is insane. They are not going to do that. He's clearly going to come back. But I thought that was going to be the complaint. If they confirmed, like, in an interview, like, a day later, if they were like, oh, yeah, he's dead. If they confirmed he was dead, then that would be the number one complaint people would have with the episode. But actually, that's not the main complaint. The main complaint isn't that he died, because everyone understands that he clearly didn't die. No, the main complaint is not that he died. It's that people didn't like the way he was written. They didn't like how he was toned down. They didn't like how he wasn't, like, as intimidating as he could have been. And even as someone that hasn't seen the series, I get that. I thought he was fine. I didn't have any problems with him personally outside of that. The only thing about him that I would say I was kind of, again, like, the whole thing of him being shot is like, I know it's a reference to the comics. That's one of the reasons why everyone's like, oh, he's not dead, because look, it happened in the comics and he was alive there. And I know that obviously the comics and the MCU are not one-to-one. There's obviously a lot of changes, but I don't know. So I guess my main takeaway from that is I thought Kingpin was fine, personally, as someone that hasn't seen the series, but I also get why people don't like him. At least don't like him in this episode. I don't think he's going to stay like that. I think that he will become more of the Kingpin people want in the future, but I will admit this. Even if he wasn't shot, even if they didn't quote-unquote kill him, that being his introduction for a lot of people, again, for me, I didn't mind it, but for a lot of people, was not a great reintroduction. Also, I believe, what was their name? Bert and Bernie, I believe that's their name. They were the directors of episodes 3 through 5. I think they said that, the final episode is going to confirm whether or not the Netflix stuff is canon. And this episode basically didn't say anything in regards to that. But I'm going to assume, based on the fact that Kingpin is, as far as I have heard, is different at the very least. Whether you like it or not is one thing. Because I have seen people, like, I'm making it out like everyone hates Kingpin in this episode. That's not true. I've seen a decent amount of people that either were totally fine with him or actually liked this version of Kingpin. But the majority definitely seem to not like it. Like, even John Campea called him Walmart Kingpin in his video earlier today, which is kind of like, ooh. that's kind of brutal, I'm not gonna lie. The fact that he was like, oh, he's totally Walmart Kingpin. That's kind of brutal. I'm not gonna lie. But definitely it feels like it's like a 25% of people like him, and then 75% of people don't like him. It's the majority of people, with or without the quote-unquote death, did not really like him in this episode. So that's kind of a shame, because this is the last episode and it's the last MCU thing of the year. And again, coming off of the insane high that was No Way Home, because No Way Home, as a lot of people have said, is fan service done right. It is fan service that services the story and doesn't take away from the main. Toby, Andrew, all that stuff. That's great. That's cool, but it doesn't take away from Tom. It's still Tom's movie. They serve their purpose well. They're enjoyable. They're fun. It's done really well. This, most people would say, is not done well. And that's the thing about that probably makes it hurt even more for some people, is the fact that No Way Home handled all these older characters so well. And then we have Kingpin, who is, most people, again, not everyone, but a lot of people thought was not handled well. They handled Daredevil well for the brief amount of time he was in No Way Home. But Kingpin was not quite what people wanted. And that's kind of a shame in some ways. Even as someone that personally thought he was fine in this episode. But I understand and I get it. Again, I know I skimmed over a bunch of stuff here. But overall, I think Hawkeye is fine. All things considered, I think the series is fine. But it's my least favorite MCU series this year. I would say that, if I was to rank the MCU series, I would say, Hawkeye's at the bottom. Then I'd put, do I include What If? I kind of don't want to include What If, but now it's kind of relevant again for reasons I'll get into in a second. We'll just not count What If for right now. So we have, I'd say Hawkeye, then Falcon and Winter Soldier, then Loki, then WandaVision. So it's my least favorite of the live action shows so far, which doesn't surprise me, because again, I went in with literally no expectations. I wasn't really expecting this show to be anything outside of setting up Kate Bishop. And again, it sets up Kate fine. There were one or two cool moments. I actually am one of the 5 people that likes the final episode for the most part. But overall, it's fine. You don't need to watch it. It's probably the one MCU show that I can... you don't need... Actually, let me take that back. The only MCU show you, really need to watch is Loki. You don't need to watch WandaVision. You don't need to watch... From a future things perspective, you don't need to watch WandaVision. You don't need to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, because, again, as long as you saw Endgame, and literally everyone on the planet saw Endgame, as long as you saw Endgame... You don't need to see Falcon Winter Soldier, because Endgame already sets up Sam being Cap anyway. All Falcon Winter Soldier does is just make it official. So you don't need to see that. Loki you have to see, because that's how the multiverse and everything happens. So you got to see Loki. But this show, you don't need to see. The most notable thing in this show, outside from it sets up Kate Bishop, is Kingpin. And as we've already discussed, a lot of people do not like Kingpin, the show, so that's not even a positive for the show, for most people anyway, so, yeah. Of course, if you're a completionist, you gotta see all the things, then you're gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch all the MCU stuff that comes out, because, I gotta see all of it, right? But obviously some MCU things are better than others, and this is definitely one of the weaker ones. It's not bad, it's not great, it's just okay. And that's basically what I have to say about Hawkeye. So, yeah, kind of it's a little bit of a shame that we went from what was probably the biggest high of the year, without a question, with No Way Home, to kind of ending with a little bit of a whimper. Even though I liked the final episode for the most part. Oh, actually, hold on. I completely forgot to talk about this. Okay, so here's another hot take I have, okay? Here's another hot take or unpopular opinion, whatever. This one's not as blatant, probably, as the King... Actually, no, it's about as blatant as the Kingpin stuff. A lot of people did not like the post-credit scene. Now, for me, I didn't mind it because... Like to me, the final episode of Hawkeye was just a bonus after No Way Home. No Way Home was so good that it was like the final episode of Hawkeye was just the cherry on top. It was just a bonus. If it wasn't amazing, it didn't matter. We got No Way Home, and No Way Home is all that mattered. And so for me, I didn't have a problem with the post-credit scene being what it was. In fact, if anything, it didn't even surprise me that much, especially after people are like, hey, yeah, it'd be cool if we got the entire musical, if they like put that up on YouTube or something after the fact, and we got it. But that right there is the inherent problem, is that most people, even like John Campea, again, we're circling back to John Campea, because I think John Campea was one of the people that were like, oh yeah, I'd totally like to see like Rogers the Musical as like a full like thing they put up. Even he was like, yeah, that should have just been a YouTube video. They should have had an actual post-credit scene. Which is like, fair enough. I didn't have a problem with it. I actually kind of liked it, to be honest. I mean, I didn't really care for it in like the first episode when they had it, but I actually kind of liked it. Here in like its full form. But, yeah, it could have easily just been a YouTube thing, something they threw up on YouTube, and people would have been fine with that. But I'm also not mad that we didn't get, like, a proper post-credit scene, because, again, No Way Home was, like, so good that, like, I don't even care. Like, if No Way Home... if No Way Home wasn't as good as it was, maybe I'd care more. Or if we didn't even have if we didn't have No Way Home, if No Way Home got delayed to next year, and and Hawkeye was the last thing... period, I'd probably care more. But the fact that we got No Way Home only a couple of days prior to this episode coming out was like, who cares? We got No Way Home. Yeah, we didn't get a post-credit scene, but like, who cares? We got No Way Home. That's my opinion. Again, may not be the popular one, but I also totally understand why people didn't like it. People really wanted... I think especially after like Kingpin... Especially after how controversial Kingpin was in this episode, I definitely think ending on the Rogers musical was probably not the right move. I get what they were trying to do. It was a neat idea. Hell, they could have had it there, and here's what they probably should have done. Here's what they should have done. They should have had 2 post-credit scenes. They should have had one be the Rogers musical, maybe like the Rogers musical maybe would be being like the last one. Or maybe, I don't know, they could put it whatever order. It doesn't really matter what the order is, I guess. And then they should have had the other one be, like, revealing that Kingpin really is still alive, or something with Echo, or something. Like they should have had another one to tease something. Again, not every MCU thing has to tease the next 20 movies, but I definitely think, especially after people were not thrilled with Kingpin, ending on Rogers the Musical kind of rubbed people the wrong way. Again, didn't really rub me the wrong way, because I liked the episode for the most part, and... Again, No Way Home was so good that, like, I'm willing to overlook whatever. I'm willing to overlook the post-credit scene, because it's like, who cares? We got No Way Home. You know? But, yeah. Okay, so now, that's everything I have to say about Hawkeye. Again, probably overlooked some things here and there, but, yeah. It is a bit of a shame, though, even as someone that liked the final episode for the most part, that the MCU this year is ending on a whimper, not a bang. The bang that was No Way Home. I mean, of course, movie-wise, and for most people, I think No Way Home will be seen as the main conclusion of the year, because it was like such a high of like literally everyone liked it. Toby fans liked it, Andrew fans liked it, Tom fans liked it, the MCU fans liked it, the general like movie community liked it. Literally everyone liked No Way Home. So the fact that we went from something like that to something as divisive as this episode is kind of a shame. We have a divisive Kingpin and a divisive post-credit scene, and that's not exactly the best way to end things, but oh well, it is what it is. But before we go ahead and call it for this episode, let's go ahead and rank every single MCU thing this year. Now, I already ranked the shows, but let's go ahead and rank everything. So, at the bottom is probably going to be Black Widow. Black Widow is obviously a movie that a lot of people were just like, a lot of people didn't care. Like, I didn't really care. I mean, I didn't really care about it all that much, even when it was supposed to come out, but like, especially by the time it came out, it was just like, let's just get the movie out the door so we can watch it and move on. And yeah, Black Widow was fine, but overall, overall it was there. It's fine. I don't hate it or anything. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's just, it was too little too late. Everyone said that, but it was too little too late. And again, that's one of the things. I said that Hawkeye is like the one show I can definitively say you can skip if you really don't want to watch it. But Black Widow you can also skip. Black Widow is very skippable. But a lot of that is just because it came out way too late. But yeah, Black Widow, it's fine, but overall you can skip it. Then after that, I would probably have... Do I like this more or not? After that... Would I put it above or lower? After that, I'll probably put The Eternals. The Eternals is definitely better than Black Widow, but overall, I'd still say it's fine. So yeah, I mean, obviously, again, I did a whole video on all these movies and shows, of course. Yeah, overall, The Eternals is fine. It's better than Black Widow. It's more interesting than Black Widow. There's some cool things in it that I like, but for the most part, it's also fine. Then after that, we'll probably have this show. Hawkeye will probably be after that. Again, it's fine. Don't hate it. Nothing I really have problems with. Just like, it's fine. You don't need to watch it. Then after that, I would probably put... After that, I would probably... What I put... Okay, I might change my opinion on this later. Obviously, all my opinions on all this stuff is subject to change. Maybe a couple years down the line, I'll like Hawkeye a lot more. After, I don't know, or maybe I'll put the show up higher. I don't know, but so after that though, I'd probably put. I'm gonna say Falcon and the Winter Soldier is next. So, Black Widow. Eternals, Hawkeye, Falcon Winter Soldier. Then after that, I would put Shang-Chi, then Loki, then WandaVision, then No Way Home. But No Way Home is like if I was gonna give these if I were gonna give these rankings, then like Black Widow, Eternals, and Hawkeye would all be like some variation of C. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is like a B minus. Shang-Chi is a B minus. And then Loki is like a B plus. WandaVision is an A. And then like Spider-Man is like an A plus. Maybe even an S. I kind of don't want to put it too much on a pedestal, but like No Way Home is just so good. It's like 2 tier. It's like at least it's minimum a tier above everything else, if not 2 tiers. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Okay, how about this? WandaVision is like an A minus. And then Spider-Man No Way Home is like an A+, if not S. So, I don't know. I guess that's my rankings, basically. So, that would be from bottom to top. Black Widow, Eternals, Hawkeye, Falcon Winter Soldier, Shang-Chi, Loki, WandaVision, and then finally at the top, definitively at the top, No Way Home. So, yeah, so this year has definitely been an interesting year for the MCU. Obviously, a lot of stuff has come out this year. You know, it started off with, like, the phenomenon that was WandaVision, and, you know, say what you will about how WandaVision ended, but it was definitely a interesting, very interesting show, sparked a lot of speculation, discussion. Falcon Winter Soldier, overall, isn't anything all that amazing. But we got some cool scenes, and we got Sam becoming Captain America. Loki was obviously very interesting because of, you know, the TVA, what's going on with that, the multiverse. Then we have Black Widow, which is, like, you know, way too late and is overall fine. Doesn't really need to exist, though. Then we have... oh, yeah, I didn't even talk about this, but, like, What If. What If was actually better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't really watch What If until, like, way later. But when I actually watched it, actually kind of liked it, especially like the Doctor Strange episode. Doctor Strange episode is the best one, easily. And of course, that's now relevant because, of course, in the teaser trailer for Doctor Strange 2 that we saw at the end of No Way Home, and we just got officially released today, actually, we see that yes, the Sorcerer Supreme, I believe, is the name. No. The Sorcerer Supreme is the name of, like, the title. The evil Doctor Strange from No What If is in Multiverse of Madness, which of course is going to be really interesting. Yeah, Shang-Chi was better than I thought it would. I know Tech Deals really doesn't care for it. I was listening to a stream because I'm actually a big fan of Tech Deals. I watch, like, all of his streams whenever he does one. Yeah, at the beginning of his most recent stream, he was like, yeah, I saw that movie the other day. It sucked. It was horrible. And I'm like, okay then. Your opinion. It's not amazing, but, like, I thought it was actually pretty decent. It was better than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, he absolutely hated it, and I just kind of found that funny. But, you know, his opinion, totally fair. And then Eternals is fine. Nothing else to really say about it other than it's fine. We got Blade at the end. We got the voice of Blade at the end. So I mean, that's cool. That's about it, really. Then again, Hawkeye was fine. And then No Way Home was, like, really, really good. Like, it destroys everything else. So. Okay, enough dragging this whole thing out. What did you guys think of Hawkeye? Did you think the ending was disappointing? Were you fine with the ending? How do you feel about Kingpin being handled in this series? And are you excited to see Kingpin return in future projects? Since he is going to return in future projects, again, he's clearly not dead. And how would you rank the MCU projects this year? So, I guess with that being said, this is Logan59XP, and I'll see you guys next time.